Okay, so a lot of people are asking what's going on with the fifth hole because we have some trees that are marked for removal, and so there's a lot of questions as to what's going on. So we're going to talk a little bit about fixing the fifth hole. I guess a lot of people probably would say that there's nothing wrong with the fifth hole and there's no fixing needed, but as I'll explain, there is some problems with the fifth hole. Here we are standing on the black tee here, the very back championship tee on number 5. I'm sure most of you recall this pole. I think we have 23 of these power poles on the property. This particular one has always been problematic in that it's always limited our ability to lengthen this hole. We were surprised and excited to hear that the pole needed to be replaced because at that point we thought, well, maybe we can get the pole moved. Apparently, the pole was compromised by some ants and termites. The pole needed to be replaced, and they gave us about a month notice saying they're gonna replace this pole. And so I talked to the manager of the project and asked him if there was any chance of relocating this pole. Specifically, we really wanted to move it to the north. So within engineering parameters of this utility line, they were able to move the pole 30 feet to the north, which is just really exciting. We explored moving this pole at our expense just actually only about 6 months ago. Throughout that process, we found out that it would cost $50,000 to move this pole. So the fact that this pole has been moved for us at no cost to us is just really exciting, and just this is just a wonderful opportunity that we did not know was going to fall in our lap. And so now that the pole has been moved, there's no better time than right now to proceed with our master plan project to rebuild this tee. It's been on the master plan for quite some time, but of course that pole in the way has kept us from moving forward with the rebuild of this tee. And then also there's the pending project we know that's going to be happening along the perimeter here with the DOT and the freeway project. But at this point, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that, but we do know with most certainty that it's not going to impact very much of our property, except 4 feet of this property line might be altered. Even if that was to happen, it's not going to greatly impact this tee complex and the new one that's proposed. We have a whole winter ahead of us, so the timing is just perfect to move ahead with rebuilding the fifth tee and getting this cart path out of here. We've had great success removing cart paths throughout the property. This is a old, broken, ugly path, and of course, with this cart path here, we have right in front of number 4 green over here, poor turf quality with carts entering this area, and of course lots of shade from these fir trees. So turf quality right here in front of the green on 4 is just always bad because of the cart path and the shade. So the project that we're going to move forward with here involves removing these trees. Of course, these two and this little maple tree over here. Those trees will be removed to facilitate building the new teeing ground, and this is looking from the south to the north. We're talking about these 2 fir trees and this little maple tree here. So I'm sure at this point some people are thinking that these trees provide a lot of safety for folks that are teeing off number 5. And so there's probably some concern that this is going to be a safety issue with golf shots coming off of 4 and landing in this area where people are gathered. But we're going to address that here, and you'll see that in the new configuration, that's not a concern. One thing's for sure is that the removal of these trees is essential, and it always has been on the plan to remove these trees for the simple fact of number 4 green over here, and that it is currently probably our shadiest green and probably the most unhealthy green on the property today. Certainly, number 7 is still pretty shady. Number 6 is pretty shady, but number 4 is certainly one of the shadiest greens. And these trees, just being where they're located for that morning sun, it's imperative that they be removed, not only to facilitate building the tee, of course, but just for the simple fact of agronomics and number 4 green. So here's an aerial view of the project site. You can see 4 green, 5 tee. So this zone here is where all the action is going to happen. Currently we have the green tee. Here we have the white tee and the blue tee and the black tee. This area here has essentially been the same teeing ground for 120 years, so it's kind of old school, and it's definitely due to be updated to have some good separation between the tees. And right now there's only 40 yards that separates these 3 tees, and typically there should be about 30 yards between the white and the blue, and then in a lot of areas there's 30, maybe 40 plus yards between the blue and the black. So really this configuration is just a residual of one of the original teeing grounds that has just never been updated. So this is what it will look like when the new tee is constructed. You can see that now we have short grass expanding into the surrounds of 4 green, connected to 5 tee. So this is a typical look and type of playing ground that we have throughout the property. Most of the tees and greens are kind of connected by short grass, where we've done most of our recent renovations. This is the case, at least. So there's very few green complexes on the course now that don't have a lot of short grass. All the traffic, with that cart path gone, this is going to be all the traffic that's going to come through here, and we do know that managing traffic areas, it's a lot easier to do that with short grass than it is long grass. It does seem counterintuitive, but that is the truth. People think, well, that the roughs would be hardier, or you would say less susceptible to wear, but that's not what we've found. That the short grass actually handles wear a lot better and remains playable. We can keep this, like golfing turf, a lot better than we can roughs. When the roughs that have high traffic, they get thin and pretty lousy in areas where we have a lot of traffic and we have roughs. So we found that short grass is a better solution for high traffic areas, which is great for golf. This is where the white tees are now. They're going to slide up into this area where the green tee is now, and then the green tee, we're going to slide that up into here. This is what the final configuration will look like. So you've got much better distribution of yardage between 4 sets of tees. So you've got the opportunity for those folks that are playing the white tees, or the green tees for that matter. They're now going to be faced with tough decisions off the tee. They're going to be able to reach the bunkers, and they're going to have to decide how much club they're going to pull. Whereas currently now, for example, the white tee is up here now, so most of the people that are playing from there, it's actually a pretty long hole, and they cannot reach the fairway bunkers, and so they kind of just bang it out there with no concern. And when you're not worried about where your ball's going, it's just not near as fun or interesting. So this is going to put a premium on decision making for those folks that play the green and the white tee, because they're going to be probably their drive is going to be right in the wheelhouse of the fairway bunker. Also, you can see by redistributing the tees this way, we have kind of created this area here where no people gathering. It's also going to be a lot safer situation for everyone to not have the existing tee location for the whites, which is like right in here. Okay, so here's an aerial view of the fairway. So let's talk about what's going on with the second phase of the project for fixing the fifth hole is on the fairway. I'm sure some people have noticed some trees marked for removal on the left side, and so here's what's going on with that. You can see by this hole, just looking at it purely from a design standpoint, the way this green is orientated and the position of these bunkers, the hole has a pretty simple to understand strategic design. You have basically three options off the tee, right? So your first option is to hit it just short of the bunkers, which really is what most people do, because when you're at this point, you still have a short to mid iron into the green, and so you're just happy with hitting a fairway, hitting the green, and getting your par. The next option off the tee is to challenge the bunkers. So you're going to take a club that you know can reach the bunkers, but you're feeling pretty good about your game, and you want to get a shorter club in your hand, and maybe there's a right hole location here that you know you want to be on the left side of the fairway, so you're going to attempt this shot. The problem with this shot today is that, first of all, you have this tree here that you have to negotiate right off the tee. You have this tree here at 200 yards off the tee, and then you have these trees right here. So if you are lucky enough to actually hit this part of the fairway, which actually is only 18 yards wide at this point here, it could be that you get a little too far left, and then you're blocked out by these trees if the hole is, depending on where the hole location is exactly. And so it's almost too risky to even attempt this shot because the reward is just not there. And so instead of attempting this, you're just going to opt to play short. The other choice off the tee is to just bash it over all the trouble. Right away, you've got, that group of people that can hit it 300 yards plus. You're hoping to draw it, but if you hit it straight, you're going to end up in here. If you draw it, you're going to find this area here, which is, really the garden, right? That's where you want to be. But there's a lot of reckless players are trying this shot, because most of the smart players are just happy with hitting it right in here, hitting it on the green, taking their par, maybe get a birdie, and walk off. The thing is that there's no real challenge here. I mean, part of the fun in golf is tempting danger and pulling it off. But if the danger is too great, then you're always going to opt to play conservative. So for most people, play a conservative shot here and then a conservative shot to the green, which gives them a par, and they feel okay about that. But what we're going to talk about is setting up a situation where we want you to actually challenge the danger. Remove these trees on the left of the fifth hole. We've got these three here, and then we've got, of course, this one that's off the tee that kind of really makes you have to play a draw or a right to left shot, because the left to right shot is just not available because of that tree, really. And then you've got this one right in the middle. This big fir is, again, makes it really difficult to play a left to right shot off the tee, but it also is growing amongst one of our, endangered precious oak trees. So it's unhealthy for the oak tree. So that's a natural to release that oak tree. Now you're looking at the view from the tee. You want to hit it in here. This is the garden right down in here. And you're not going to get it with a left to right shot, because these trees here. And if you can on command hit the right to left shot to avoid these bunkers, then you're going to do that. But again, most people are going to play conservatively right over here. There's the conservative shot there, the conservative shot onto the green. It's kind of boring and mundane because the concept of hitting it into here is difficult for a great majority of players. It's okay for a golf hole to prefer a draw or a fade, but it is not okay for a golf hole to require a draw or a fade. So this is what it will look like after the trees are removed. So you still have this awesome oak tree right in front of you, but at the height of it, it's about 65, 70 feet. It's going to be really tempting to just hit it over this oak tree. And that's very doable with today's, the trajectory off today's drivers. This is just a solidly struck drive. So if you play the left to right shot, like if you're a right-handed player like me and you just feel good about the fade, you'll just start it right over this oak tree and land it in the garden. Now, of course, the right to left shot is still available, but now more and more golfers are going to be able to take a risk because now there's a reward. If you do find the fairway, those trees near the green are now removed, so there's a clear shot, an opportunity to second shot. Picking this line off the tee, yeah, it's easy to carry the oak tree, but out of bounds is right here. So it's still not going to be easy. It's just going to be tempting. Most players, given an opportunity like this, they're going to take it, and they're not going to play this conservative shot over here. And so now you set up a golf hole where there's this irresistible temptation to say, I'm not happy with par here. I'm gonna get a birdie, because you just played 1, 2, 3, and 4 at Tacoma, probably the 4 hardest holes on the property. Number 5 it should be a nice breather hole where you can make birdie, make up some ground if you're 2 or 3 over, because getting through 1 through 4, and if you're not over par, then you're already having a career day. And so if you're having a career day and you step on this tee, now you're still going to feel like you want to make birdie. So this is what it's going to look like after the trees are removed. You can see now there's plenty of room to start your shot over this oak tree. The fairway now is 25 yards wide in this area by the bunkers. It's still tight. I mean, that's very narrow, but at least you know that hitting it over the tree and in this area, if you can avoid the bunkers, you're going to have a really good chance for birdie. And that's the bottom line. That's the reward for tempting the danger. Then this shot that we talked about before, the shot of blasting it over the bunkers, very few people are going to attempt this shot. No longer really is going to be the choice for most people. Because really, if you land over here, this is a downhill lie. You might try this shot once, but you're really just kind of reckless if you're actually attempting this shot. So most people that can hit it this far with the fixing the fairway and putting it back the way it used to be, because obviously the trees we're talking about here, when this hole was first laid out in the 70s, it used to be, I think I probably should have started by saying this, but this hole used to be straight and the green used to be right in here. But eventually they wanted to lengthen this hole, which is our 9th hole today. And so the easiest way to do that was to move the green over here, and then they could put the new tee for 9 here, add some yardage. I mean, it was a good change. This is a really, number 5 is a neat strategic short par 4. And now after this project, it's going to once again be just a fantastic short par 4 with some cool strategy. And this reckless shot here of trying to blast it over the bunkers, very few people will attempt this shot, which is good because the people hitting this shot, they were also spraying it out into 9, which obviously is kind of dangerous to hit it over here in the 9 tee. And then when you have to come over here and look for your ball and try to recover, it slows up play. And so we really want to keep everybody playing in this corridor. Now, I put this picture in to show, I mean, I couldn't Photoshop out these trees. I'm just not skillful enough, but these trees would go away, and then there's trees. There's trees beyond here to kind of keep buffering the freeway, but we will replant along the maintenance road and the far left side of number 5. We're going to replant with some buffering trees, large roadies, that kind of a thing, to continue to have the privacy feel that we have now on number 5. But you can also see just the tremendous shade that those trees are casting onto the 5th fairway. So agronomically, the turf condition of number 5 is going to be so much better after this project. Not only is the golf hole going to be more fun to play, the turf quality be much better. But you can see this, here's the oak tree we're talking about that you're going to be able to carry over, because you can imagine now this fir tree is gone, right? So I kind of, I really wasn't sure how to diagram that, but I found this little, but that's the shot over the oak tree into the garden, right? Now, interesting, I just want to point this out. I don't know how relevant this is to you, but this particular tree here, this oak tree, one of our Gary oaks, it's a really nice specimen. It is exactly about 210 yards off the tee. So it actually is exactly the distance that the Eisenhower tree was off the 17th tee at Augusta National. So, if anybody remembers watching Augusta before 2014, I think is when that the Eisenhower tree was lost in an ice storm. You'll remember that was one of the most iconic trees in golf. It was ominous and it was there, but it really wasn't in play that much. I mean, most of the professionals just carried over it, but it was iconic because that tree obviously, was the nemesis for Dwight Eisenhower, but and that's why it's called the Eisenhower tree. But I'm not saying that this tree is now going to become that iconic for Tacoma, but it is going to be an integral part of the golf hole, and it's going to kind of dictate what you do off the tee, if you feel like you can carry it or not. In addition to making the hole more strategic by restoring it back the way it was, we also have expanded the back of 5 green. You can see this arrow kind of points to where we extended the green back. I was working on it. And that's kind of what it looks like. It's all sodded now, but there's a whole new back right hole location that is going to be very challenging to get to. You can see just the ground contours around it, everything sloping away from it. It's going to be neat. It's going to be really interesting. And so the 5th hole is, we're putting it back the way it was, but we're adding some new dimension to it, and it's going to be very exciting. Please do not hesitate to email me or call me, or if you have any questions about this project, and thank you for listening.